After many long months of taxation without representation, the Canadian Parliament is all set to resume on Monday morning for a very brief spring session before they once again break for the summer. This comes after the Liberals vote against adopting the Reform Act, which would have given them the power to oust Mark Carney if they saw fit. This comes directly after this same Liberal caucus was largely saying that they were indeed going to adopt the Reform Act. In typical Liberal fashion, they say one thing and then they do the other. This begs the question, are Canadians going to wake up and realize who they voted for? This out of The Guardian. Not everybody who voted for Carney quite knows what they got. Canada eyes its new Prime Minister. So it's here, guys, the moment of truth. Will Canada finally see Mark Carney for what he is and wake up? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 53 of Jonny Says So. Now, we are just a few short hours away from Parliament reconvening for the spring. It's going to be a very interesting time, as the newly re-established Liberal Party is going to have to justify everything that they've done over the last 10 years and convince the opposition and Canadians that they've changed. Now, it seems there was doubt about Mark Carney's leadership even within the Liberal Party caucus itself, as several members were looking at adopting the Reform Act, which, if they had passed, would have allowed them to quickly and seamlessly oust Mark Carney the minute that they saw fit. Now, earlier this week, Mark Carney was pressed on this by the media, where he had this to say.
Time for a last question. Catherine. Good evening, Catherine Lévesque, National Post. I wanted to get your opinion on the Reform Act. You might have seen, but a few of your MPs say it's nothing against you, but they want to have the power to trigger a leadership review if things go south, maybe in a couple of years. Are you comfortable with this idea?
Is that a prediction?
Yes, that is definitely a prediction. In my opinion, at least, I don't think it's even going to take a couple of years before the regret sets in of all the people that were hoodwinked into voting for you, Mark.
We never know. Confidence. Are you comfortable with that idea so early in your mandate?
I'll say the following, which is that the Reform Act, all parties in Parliament, all recognized parties in Parliament are bound by the Reform Act. It's the law of the land.
No, it's not. Mark Carney seems to have a fundamental misunderstanding about how this works. And I don't know if he's just ignorant or if he is purposely being deceptive. But no, the Reform Act is only bound to parties that vote for it. It's not the law of the land. Now, the Liberal Party, time and time again, have voted against this piece of legislation, which really would have helped them out in the Trudeau years. Like this past year, in December, when the Liberal Party approval rating was at its lowest in 157 years. In fact, by the time Justin Trudeau resigned, it was projected that if an election was held that week, they would only get 6 seats.
And therefore, there are these 4 votes consistent with the Reform Act that will take place. They'll take place at the first caucus meeting, which is Sunday. So it's just
that idea.
Well, I observe that this will happen. There'll be these votes.
The Reform Act was introduced by Conservative MP Michael Chong. And it's interesting to note that this legislation has been consistently voted for and adopted by the Conservative caucus ever since. In fact, it was used to oust lame duck Erin O'Toole, and that's how Pierre Poilievre entered the picture to begin with. And speaking of Pierre Poilievre, when Parliament resumes, it's certainly going to be an interesting dynamic without him. But Pierre Poilievre addressed his caucus today with a surprising message of cooperation and optimism. Let's check it out.
And speaking of our economy, our second priority is economic independence for Canada. We all want a permanent end to tariffs with the U.S., and we will work with the government to help make that happen. I've already told the Prime Minister that we are happy to cooperate any way we can to bring about an end to this unnecessary dispute and restore our not just our sovereignty, but also tariff-free access to the most successful international trading arrangement in the world. And we can't help but note that the Prime Minister promised during the election that he would put his elbows up and apply dollar-for-dollar tariffs that would raise tens of billions of dollars. Now, let's be clear. He said that it would raise $20 billion this year alone, and he published that in a platform released after he had quietly eliminated most of those tariffs. So how is he going to make up the money? And why did he put his elbows down when he said they were up? Look, despite the Prime Minister's doublespeak, we will work, as I said, to help him try and get a trade deal to put an end to the tariffs. But we also need to focus on making our own economy more independent and self-reliant so that we're no longer vulnerable to such international surprises. That means unleashing our industry and its mighty workers to make things here.
Now, it's easy to see why Pierre Poilievre is taking the position that he is. He can't be a stick in the mud now because the Liberal Party under Mark Carney has essentially adopted all of the Conservatives' best ideas. Just take the example of the carbon tax, for instance. It was recently reported that the inflation rate drops to 1.7% in April, driven by lower energy prices after carbon tax removal, which is hilarious when you consider all of the gaslighting by the Liberals and the legacy media over the last several years when they would tell you that any sort of inflation caused by energy prices is minuscule. Take a look at this article from 2023, for instance. There's now a Bank of Canada number for carbon taxes' impact on inflation. It's small. Yeah, right, guys. And finally, I have something that I found too funny not to share with you guys. So, as you know, not only does Parliament reconvene tomorrow, but our throne speech is going to be done by King Charles himself.
When King Charles will deliver the throne speech opening the next session of Parliament. Kathy, it will certainly be unique to see the King deliver the speech from the throne on Tuesday. What's to be made of that, though, for the start of this new minority Parliament?
I think there's two aspects to it. First of all, I think it's a big feather in Mark Carney's hat. It suggests that he has the kind of pull that can, attract the king to come and do the throne speech. And obviously, it's a message about Canada's sovereignty, I think, and where old allegiances lie.
Yeah, I guess nothing says Canadian sovereignty like a symbol of colonialism and European monarchy. In what world does this symbolize Canadian sovereignty exactly? This is the kind of lunacy that we are going to have to deal with for the next little while, it seems. So I think it's safe to say that the next few weeks are certainly going to be interesting, with the House of Commons back in session after way too long of a hiatus. And I plan on covering all of it for you guys. So if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Now, I want to know what you think down in the comments. Do you feel like the King of England is a good symbol of Canadian sovereignty? Do you think the Liberals shot themselves in the foot by not adopting the Reform Act? And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.